Elon the Terrible. The US federal government has unleashed all its hounds and they've got their set sight on Elon Musk. Their one and only mission is to stop Elon dead in his tracks and at all costs prevent him from buying Twitter. Before we look at the why, let's focus on how and the what. On Thursday, there were two significant developments in the opposition to Musk's buyout. First, investment behemoth Vanguard increased its holdings to just above Elon's, so Musk would no longer be the top shareholder and therefore can't swing his largest owner weight around. Not sure how the investors of Vanguard feel about this, the folks who plowed their hard-earned money into Vanguard. Secondly, and more materially, Twitter's board voted in some corporate rule changes that make it a lot harder for Musk to buy the company. Basically, changing the rules to the game now that someone else has the upper hand. Specifically, the board passed a rule providing that if any single owner ever gets over 15% of the company, then all the other shareholders may buy brand new shares for half price, which would immediately tank the value of the stock, making it extremely expensive for anyone to buy more than 15%. They would rather see the company crash and burn than it fall into Elon's hands, once again ignoring the investors and shareholders who invested in Twitter. But given these are the same faux virtue signaling elitists who fashioned themselves as some kind of demigods, not much of a surprise. Twitter was never about business to these folks. It's always been about the narrative and ideology. Knowing full well that this move would put the board squarely in the crosshairs of thousands of lawyers itching to bring shareholder derivative suits against the individual board members for breaching their fiduciary duties and not selling to Musk, the board sought protection from the big bad Elon and cried, "Uncle Sam!" And guess what? In an Easter miracle, late yesterday on Friday, multiple legacy media sources gleefully announced that the DOJ and the SEC were both separately investigating Musk over his attempts to buy Twitter. It's almost like the federal government has some kind of vested interest in the social media company that it has to protect. But that can't be. After all, isn't the primary job of government trough bottom feeders to protect free speech? Suggesting anything else is simply a right-wing extremist conspiracy theory, right? Come on, after all, can you blame the government for taking action? Musk must be stopped. Why, he's dangerous. First off, he's building those electric cars knowing full well there's not enough places to plug them in. Next, he's like from South Africa, and not like one of those good South Africans, but one of those white ones. Then there's the whole space flight thing. Just who does he think he is, sending folks into space and further polluting our atmosphere and deleting the ozone and stuff? And don't get me started on his free speech and everyone should be free to say whatever blah, blah, blah stuff. That's what leads to radical ideas such as men are men and women are women. Musk is now just as dangerous as angry soccer moms who criticize school boards and Ron DeSantis who picks on Disney. Maybe even more dangerous. Well, all I can say is, thanks for stepping into the ring, Elon. Now, Charles Gasparino of Fox Business News broke the story. He reported, both the DOJ and the SEC are clearly monitoring and scrutinizing this entire issue. Whether he filed the right forms, whether there's a stock manipulation case here, whether he's making public statements that he probably shouldn't make, what we do know is that he stirred up a regulatory hornet's nest, DOJ, SEC. I'm getting this from lawyers who deal with them. The investigations probably give the board perfect legal cover for rejecting Musk's offer. They now have a good reason to reject him. He's under Department of Justice and Securities and Exchange Commission investigation. This makes shareholder lawsuits against board members much harder to win. Lawyers would probably have to show coordination between the board and the Biden administration. Something like a phone call from a board member or an email to the White House, which, given how stupid this administration is, not beyond the realm of possibility. The problem, however, legally speaking, is you don't get that kind of discovery until after your lawsuit survives a motion to dismiss. Now, absent a lion-hearted whistleblower or a lying one, as in the case of number 45, those shareholder lawsuits will probably never get off the launch pad now. The last time the SEC investigated Elon over a single tweet about taking Tesla private, he was forced to settle by stepping down as chairman and paying $40 million in fines, as he put it, to save Tesla's life. So the SEC investigation is a serious threat. Now, Elon has some very sharp lawyers, and they're likely advising him to stop messing with Twitter. But it may be too late. Anyway, according to lawyers who've commented on this, Elon's only way to get through this thing unscathed might be just to push through and get control of the company. I know Elon will not likely never ever see these videos, but kudos to you, sir, for being willing to put principle above profit. Not easy to do these days, especially when you don't need to. In closing, I'll share with you a couple of thoughts. First and foremost, this has brought to the surface what those of you who primarily watch my videos already knew. Twitter is far from impartial. It's make-believe pretend free speech, and Twitter has been exposed for the joke it is. It's simply not a private company anymore, but a mouthpiece for a left-of-center federal government and a blunt instrument that government is wielding for some very important purpose, primarily controlling the narrative. He who controls the medium controls the messaging. But don't take my word for it. A couple of years ago, 2017, Mika Brzezinski on MSNBC had a whoops moment when she accidentally told the truth while she was complaining about Trump's tweets. Here's what she said. Well, and I think that the dangerous edges here is he's trying to undermine the media, trying to make up his own facts. He could have undermined the messaging so much that he can actually control exactly what people think. And that is our job. Thanks, Mika, for saying the quiet part out loud. Now, given that legacy media's credibility is basically shot in 2022, it would seem Twitter, along with Facebook and YouTube, have undertaken the responsibility of controlling exactly what people think. All for Uncle Sam, of course. Just like legacy media of yesteryear. We can thank Musk for making this abundantly clear for those who denied it till yesterday. My second thought is that they've pissed off Elon. So no matter how this turns out, they've awoken the bear. I don't know him personally, but from what I've seen of him, he fashions himself a bit of an underdog. I know he's worth $300 billion, give or take, not much of an underdog. Yes, he's rich, but at the end of the day, he's not one of them. He's not simply interested in jet-setting around the world, drinking Dom, and having everyone make golden idols of him to worship. He's got personality, brains, which we already knew, but lots of fight as well. Lastly, now that Elon has gone fully off the reservation, what are those free speech hating, faux virtue signaling, planet saving socialists going to do with their Teslas? I mean, after all, how could such principled folks continue to drive and buy Teslas? Where are all those safe spaces when you need them, huh? Anyways, folks, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. Please post any comments you have in the comment section. You can also follow me on my Rumble and my Locals account, and I will see you next time.